Rain gardens are one of the most versatile forms of green infrastructure because they are one of the easiest to install within limited site constraints. Building a rain garden generally starts by digging a depression in an open area of the landscape. Stormwater runoff from rooftops or other impervious areas can be captured within this depressed area and allowed to soak into the soil. This is a photo of a rain garden installed at the University of Kentucky Arboretum in Lexington shortly after a storm that produced an inch of rain. This is the same rain garden several hours later. You can see how almost all the captured water has disappeared because it soaked into the soil. Once the water infiltrates into the soil, it will either continue to percolate to the groundwater table, be used by the plants, or evaporate to the atmosphere. But the critical point to remember is that this stormwater was prevented from entering the storm sewer system, where it could contribute to flooding or water pollution downstream. Here's another example of a rain garden located at the Olika's Shriners Temple in Lexington shortly after a half-inch rainfall. After several hours, you can see much of the stormwater captured in this rain garden has soaked into the soil. A closer look at the stormwater captured in this rain garden reveals some of the oil floating on the water surface along with other debris and pollutants washed off from the adjacent parking lot. The volume of water that soaks into the soil in this rain garden will not enter the storm sewer system, and the pollutants captured can be filtered by the plants or broken down by the microorganisms living in the soil. Rain gardens aren't just limited to open spaces in the landscape. They can also be constructed in concrete containers or planters, often used to landscape downtown streets. This is an example of a rain garden installed along South Limestone in Lexington. The typical pedestrian walking by may not realize it has anything to do with stormwater management because it looks like a common landscaping planter that may have otherwise been installed to make the street more attractive.
Where we got started is we were trying to help people understand how to retain water. The problem is that whenever we have stormwater overflow, it causes Bluegrass Creek to rise and causes the stormwater being dumped into a common sewer, then causes it to tend to overflow or have a rough time dealing with it during heavy rainfall. We did this one mainly just to show how easy you could make one, because this one all we did is we cut the sod in terms of getting it out of the way. We then did a perk test. Then from that standpoint, it was already pretty flat, so there wasn't much else to do. It has a slight berm. Everybody in the neighborhood came out here the first night it rained in their pajamas and everything else to see if it was going to be a puddle or a lake. If you get the perk rate right, it goes away by morning, in terms of the stuff. And so what happens then as a result of that, that means that it's pretty maintenance free, and that's good for me because I am not a gardener. These are all Kentucky natives. They're what called full sun Kentucky natives. They tend to enjoy just being out in the sun. They're tolerant of drought. We just took our downspout, put it on the end of a great big pipe like this, cut great big holes in the bottom of the pipe, and ran the pipe out into the middle of the bermed, cleaned out space. So the most straightforward way in the world to do that is like that, and many times you will have sufficient rainfall that you will not have a problem. This half of the roof of my roof fills this rain barrel, overflow of that rain barrel fills that rain barrel, overflow goes to this end of the rain garden. And so then the rain barrel slowly empties between rainfall into the outer perimeter of the garden. What we've done is increase ease the loading that's on our existing combined sewer facility.
Permeable pavements are another form of green infrastructure that's finding widespread application for stormwater management. Most conventional streets, sidewalks, and parking lots are paved with impervious concrete or asphalt, which do not allow water to soak through its surface. Permeable pavements, on the other hand, are designed to have much larger pore spaces that allow water to soak into the pavement. Pavers can also be used to reduce stormwater runoff. The pavers themselves are not typically permeable, but stormwater can soak into the underlying soil through the spaces separating each of the pavers. Another form of green infrastructure that's been in use for a long time are vegetated swales. Swales such as this example in Versailles have been a convenient and inexpensive method of conveying stormwater runoff. However, now we're realizing that vegetation growing in these swales provides additional water quality benefits by slowing down stormwater runoff and filtering out some of the pollutants it carries. When stormwater flowing through the vegetated swales has the chance to soak into the underlying soil, it can be used by the plants or percolate down into the groundwater table. The portion of stormwater that infiltrates into the soil is eliminated from the total volume of water that would otherwise flow to the local stream.
We're at the Kosare Children's Medical Center in Louisville. You'll see we just got a few biocells and bioswells. The bioswells are intended to collect the water from the parking lot and trying to promote the infiltration into the ground with native species and the amended soil. The native species will help the plant roots go up to 16 feet deep, so that'll help that water just go into the ground. The amended soil will help filter that water before it gets into the drainage system, and then from the drainage system it'll go on into the creek, so it has a chance to actually remove a lot of the pollutants before it actually gets into the creek. This site consists of 3 different biocells and three different bioswells. Kind of creates an entire treatment system. Some plants may flower in the spring, others may flower in the fall, so we kind of just give a good diversity, just kind of get that different flowering periods. And also the plants like it better. Kind of reduce the cost of the overall drainage system because we were able to eliminate a lot of the catch basins and reduce the size of the storm pipes. There is a little maintenance up front. The longer it's been established, the less maintenance there is. You'll see some of the other ones that there is mulching involved, but once these plants get full grown and kind of take over, then you really don't have to keep replacing that mulch. The biggest thing is just making sure you pull out the invasive species or whatever else decides to grow in these areas.
Several economic benefits are associated with the use of green infrastructure. New development projects that implement green infrastructure have demonstrated cost savings when compared to the cost of installing underground pipes and concrete curbs associated with gray infrastructure. Another economic advantage of green infrastructure is that these devices can improve the aesthetics of our man-made environment while also serving as stormwater management facilities. The portions of conventional stormwater infrastructure visible above ground often consist of unsightly concrete structures. These structures are constructed for the sole purpose of managing stormwater, so they're intended to be functional, not attractive. With green infrastructure, you're getting stormwater infrastructure that also serves to beautify the downtown landscape. The aesthetic benefits of green infrastructure have also had positive effects on residential property values. Residential developments with carefully incorporated green infrastructure can experience improved property values. When green infrastructure is implemented in residential neighborhoods, it can create a park-like atmosphere that many homebuyers find attractive. Therefore, green infrastructure not only improves stormwater management, it also contributes to making neighborhoods more desirable to homebuyers. Maintenance requirements are one of the most common concerns about green infrastructure that makes city managers reluctant to pursue such projects. However, the regular maintenance of green infrastructure devices is equivalent to the common landscaping installed solely for aesthetic purposes. Whether it's green infrastructure or just landscaping, Both will need to be weeded and cleaned of litter. And in comparison to landscaping consisting of grassy lawns, the maintenance requirements are far less for green infrastructure. The more you learn about the simplicity and practicality of green infrastructure, the more you'll be able to visualize some variation of these structures in your town. Oftentimes, there are typical landscaping features that could have been built to serve as green infrastructure. For instance, this is an ornamental planter box that can be found in many strip malls here in Kentucky. This structure could be converted into a rain garden by redirecting the nearest downspout to drain roof runoff into it. And there may be many similar examples where ornamental landscaping features could be providing the added benefit of serving as a stormwater management device. As we continue to install more and more green infrastructure, we're learning about ways to design these devices that will help minimize maintenance requirements. And excellent examples are popping up all over the nation, including right here in Kentucky.
Stormwater affects the community. Nobody thinks about it too much until there's a problem, until you get flooding, until you standing water or muddy ditches. With green infrastructure can help reduce the volume of water that sometimes some flooding neighborhoods see.
It's really important that they can learn from our lessons. We've been doing this here in Louisville for a few years, so we've had some bumps along the way, still learning some things, and I think that lessons that we've learned can be applied in their communities and save them some money and some of the headache.
Most surprising thing is just the amount of water that we can actually prevent from getting into the sewer systems by just having these precautions set up.
Everything that you're seeing today can be applied on a much smaller scale. Small rain gardens, I think, would be beneficial for the smaller communities. Yeah, I think a lot of people are sort of hesitant to change at first. I think the price of this stuff's going to come down. A lot of the fears that people have will be taken care of. I think it'll be a little bit smoother road for them once they get going and get some of these things in the ground.
I've definitely got some information that I'm going to take home and share with people back home so we can hopefully make some changes.
It's really amazing what the nature can do that we can't.